One of the disadvantages I have is that the two previous speakers covered about half of what I was going to say. But I'll jump around. If it's not quite as polished as I would like, that's fine. One of the points I want to emphasize that's already been made is you're dealing with a data poor stock, and by that I basically mean that there's a lack of biological information on issues like sexual maturity, genetic makeup, all of those types of issues. And then the other issue that's kind of lacking in albacore management is the issue of economics. And that's really critical for some of the people in this room. If you're taking clients out and those clients are paying whatever they pay, $700, $800, $1,000 a day to go catch albacore, they fly in, they buy $1,500 fly rods, they stay at hotels, they eat food. If you take all of those types of numbers and you blow them up, you get some really astounding economic values that get generated by the fishery. So none of that has been calculated for it. So we're in the unenviable position of having very little biological information that we can kind of hang our hat on, and the lack of economic information on the importance of the fishery. Most of the people in the room, I think, are probably guides, and you guys understand better than I do the importance of this particular stock. In my own case, I fall into the category, I think we should be precautionary. I don't think we need to do anything radical. I like the strategy that North Carolina developed. It's kind of a capping strategy that they put in place. It's not too radical. And I would point out, having been a fishery manager for decades, literally, that like this in the past, where we have a stock that's basically data poor, and I'm going to give you a crustacean example, which is Jonah crabs. Now, Jonah crabs, and this is a quick example so you understand where I'm going. Jonah crabs basically are bycatch in the offshore lobster fishery up here, and as a result of it, for the last 50 years, they've been a bycatch. People bring them in, they land 1,500 pounds of crabs. They get paid 25 cents, 50 cents for the crabs. You know, basically there was not a lot of overexploitation of the resource because the dollar value was not there. And about 2012, things started to change. There were problems with the West Coast crab fishery, and as a result of that, Jonah crabs can be used, their claws, for a substitute for Dungeness crabs. And so all of a sudden the price started going up, and there was a lot more interest, and boats started to target them. The economics improved. Instead of being a bycatch fishery, it went to a directed fishery. This is only in a couple of years. It doesn't take long. If the market responds to some change and the dollar value goes up, it doesn't take long for the commercial industry, and I'm not picking on the commercial industry, but it doesn't take long for the commercial industry to react and target them. And the same thing would happen with albacore. Right now, all the slides that Chris put up are pretty rosy. Things are fairly steady, a little bit of an increase in the population. And so when you get into a management discussion on a species like this, the normal question is, why do we need to do something? It's pretty smooth. You're looking at landings that are not going up, but that could all change. All you need is one creative chef in New York City to come up with a recipe that everyone likes, and it goes viral, and the price of these fish, which now are 50 cents or $1 a pound, could go up to $5 a pound. It would totally change the equation. That's the value of what North Carolina did. They're kind of positioning themselves to deal with that type of change. So on the crab example, in 2012, because of the increase in effort on the fishery, a bunch of us got together. I was part of the group, got together and put together a Jonah crab fishery improvement project. And that's just a fancy name for, it's basically a work group. And what we did was we included not only commercial fishermen, we included environmentalists, we included a whole range of different users, including supermarkets like Hannaford's, that's a big supermarket, and crab processors. So we all get into a room and we started talking about management. There was no management on crabs at that point. And so after 2 years, we basically came to some consensus, and the consensus was that we would go to the Atlantic States Commission, which I'm on. There are, I think, 5 commissioners or alternates here today, which is really rather astounding and wonderful. And we went to the commission and asked them to include Jonah crab as a species in the lobster plan. So there was no management, there was no federal management, there was no international management, and virtually none of the states were managing the species at that point. So this was an effort that was self-funded. We all had to pay dues to participate in the committee deliberations, and we all had a say on how it would go. And what we did was we put together what I call baseline regulations, which are really basic. We protected the female crabs, we put in a minimum size, we put in reporting requirements and that type of thing, just so that there would be a floor or a deck under the crab population. You know, Chris's North Carolina strategy is slightly different. They're going to allow it to expand. In our case, what we wanted to do is ensure the reproductive potential of the resource. So that went into place. It's been in place. Jonah crabs is still a data poor stock. Mass DMF has done a tremendous amount of work on crab mortality since. But that I look at kind of in the same context that I look at albacore management. I think one of the ways that we can jointly move forward on crab management is on a state-by-state basis. And at some point, what you'll get is you'll get enough support at the commission to create a plan. Right now, if I had to count states, heads of states, the commission, I think what you would have is you'd have Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, and North Carolina all spoke in favor of some type of precautionary management. You had the letter that was sent, I think Tony probably circulated that to everybody from the Florida Fishing Club. And not yet. Okay, so he'll send that, I'm sure. Yes, and so that went out basically asking for management. And that was a letter basically that was sent from one of the most prominent fishing clubs in Florida to the South Atlantic Fishery Management Council and to the National Marine Fisheries Service asking for management. And when the whole subject of management came up at the commission a few 6 months or so ago, maybe longer than that, 9 months ago, one of the most vocal opponents to management was the Florida representative. And that's all captured in the minutes. That's not something that I'm saying to criticize the representative, but the dynamic of that letter, that may change the position of the state of Florida. And if it changes the position of the state of Florida, they're the ones that are catching the most fish. So it's a huge change. That would be a really watershed type change. So I'm optimistic going forward. I think the states that are interested, those states I named, pool their efforts and try to work on this thing on a state-by-state basis and put in some type of precautionary regulations. I think that's doable at the state level. If we get enough of a support at the commission level, I think that at some point you'll have the commission pick this up as a species. Now, the things that weren't covered in the prior discussions, I think one of the things that's kind of needed here for the Guides Association to at least think about is putting together kind of a working group that would be composed of a few representatives from up and down the state, the coast to basically collaborate on management issues. In this day and age where we all do meetings virtually, there's no expense. A couple of meetings a year, make sure everybody's on the same page, making the same arguments, that type of thing. I think that would really help. I could see using the same type of arrangement we did with the crab project, where we basically put together a group of scientific experts from the collaborating states that gave us advice on some of these life history aspects and which ones to prioritize and which ones to try to focus the research on. I think that would be another good step. The third thing I would like to see done looking ahead would be for us to do the same thing on the economic nodule. And basically there I think we could rely very heavily. I don't know whether we've got anyone in here from NIMS, but NIMS has very competent economists on their staff. And there's no reason that between some of the economists at NOAA and some of the academic economists that we have access to, you could put together a committee to look at the economic issues, how you do a survey to generate values. And I'll just pick a number out of the sky. We manage on the coast a lot of species, dogfish being one of them, which is not a terribly valuable species. You got basically 20 different state and federal agencies involved in that, and that's worth a few $1 million, basically. I wouldn't doubt it one bit if you took all of the values from the albacore fishery. It would be 10, 20, 30, $50 million. I think it would probably be a fairly significant number, but that's just guesswork on my part. What you need is some economists to look at the data, how the recreational data is being collected, whether or not that's adequate. If it is adequate, then what's the format you would use to do a study and then basically do the study and then generate values. If you do that, then if you do those two things, I think then you'd be in a position where you'd have some of the basic science questions would be addressed, and you'd have economic information on how valuable the fishery is. And I think at that point, you'd be in a much stronger position to advocate on behalf of the resource and try to get some kind of coastwide management. So that's it. I'm happy to take questions. And sorry if that was a little bumpy.
And also, if anyone, give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Ed's still here. He hadn't left yet, so we didn't do a Q&A with Ed, but if anyone has any questions on what New England Aquarium's doing with the algae, and you want to ask. Nobody has any questions for Dave. Like, all I can say is, from the Guides Association, all of us at the Guides Association, we can't thank you all enough for spending a little bit of time with us today and learning more about what our priorities are and what we do. You know, we're trying real hard to build a big tent. Y'all are all welcome under it. We don't care if you're a guide or a recreational angler or a lure manufacturer. Doesn't matter. We're always going to promote the best available science. We're always going to believe in better business through conservation. We're not going anywhere. Matter of fact, we're going to new places. So we're going to be around for a while. Sure, that's either really disappointing or makes people really happy, depending on where you're at. But again, thank y'all very much for entertaining us. We, as an association, are extremely happy with how things went today. You know, we look forward to hosting this again next year if Scott will have us. Scott will have us here, and you know, who knows? Maybe in new regions and other places, and keep expanding. This is who we are. Versus like a trade show, something like that. This is who we want to be and stake our claim on. So thank you all once again for spending a little bit of time and giving us a chance to learn about us. We appreciate all of you, and look forward to seeing y'all at Cheeky tonight and fishing tomorrow and the captain's meeting and everything. So thank everyone. Get home safe.